Okay, this is an Ableton cover or replication, if you will, of a popular song. We are going to cover the clean version of Hot, which sounds like this. So first we have to find out the tempo of the song. So try to tap along to it. We're gonna count this in a slow 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so while that's playing, you want to actually tap the tap tempo, which is right here with your mouse. So top left corner. Here we go. I'm going to tap the tempo, and you're going to see this 120 is going to change. So basically what we're doing is measuring the tempo of the song. Here we go. Ready now. Tap, 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 tap. Usually like 1 or 2 times through until it settles in. So this looks like 56 beats per minute. Tap. Okay, then we will pause the song. Now we have our tempo here, and sometimes you'll get a decimal point. This says 56.08. So we're just going to click in this box and type on your keyboard 5, 6, enter, so we get a even number here. There we go. Now we have an even number. Now we want to start creating the drums. So before we do that, let's delete some of these tracks that we don't need. Ableton always gives you 2 audio, 2 MIDI. We'll learn more about what those are later. And we're going to go here to our column and narrow down all of the sounds in Ableton by just drums. And we're going to go down to 808 Core Kit. And you can just drag and drop this in here. Then you'll see at the bottom the 16 sounds of this 808 Core Kit, which is basically an 808 drum machine. You can click the little play button to hear what they sound like with your mouse. But even better is to use MIDI keyboard. So you want to turn that on the top right. It looks like this. And you want to make sure it's in the correct octave, which is C1 to D2. You can shift the octave on your computer keyboard by pushing Z or X. So notice as I shift this, if you look carefully down at the bottom of the window, it's really small, but it tells you what octave you're in. So if you're in the correct octave, the A key will give you your kick sound. So for this song, we're going to need to have kick, snare, and hi-hat, and a clap. So kick is A, hi-hat is T, clap is E, and snare is S. So A, S, E, T. 4 sounds. Make sure you know where those are on your computer keyboard. And that's it. Okay, now let's listen to the song again, and let's listen for the bass drum sound. That's this sound. That's the low sound. We're going to just try to ignore the lyrics and just listen for the bass drum sound. I'm going to rewind to the beginning, because what we want is we want to be able to hear what that rhythm is. So here we go. So here I am. I'm in iTunes, by the way.
Everything litty, I love when it's hot. Turn to the city, I broke out the notch. Got some more millies, I keep me a knot.
So the bass drum goes like this. Boom. Boom.
We call them chops cause they gonna chop.
Boom. Boom. So try to memorize that. Boom. Boom. Now we're going to actually play that in to Ableton. So we want to turn on our metronome. That's these 2 dots, metronome on. You can hear it, and metronome off. And we're going to give us a count in. That's a drop-down menu next to the 2 dots. So I think this is a slow tempo, so 1 bar count in is going to be plenty. Faster songs, you want more of a warning, so you might want 2 or even 4 bars. And so again, we're metronomes on. We have the default to 1 bar count in, and we're set to 56 BPM. That stands for beats per minute, which we figured out earlier using tap tempo. And we have an 808 chord kit on our only remaining MIDI track. So let's go ahead and go to these little slots. This is where you store your ideas. So this first slot is available, hasn't been used. There's 8 total. And this is called a clip slot. I'm going to click twice in this rectangle. Click, click. Now look, we get what is called a MIDI sequencer at the bottom of our screen. So this is the modern version of the drum machine step sequencer. And when we play notes on our keyboard, they will write themselves into here. And so what we want to do before we start this is, again, make sure we know the sound, the A. So you might even want to play along with the song as it's playing and just push the A key on your keyboard to get the timing down. I'll do that right now. You probably can't hear mine because it's right with it, but I'll do some extras. Hear the extras. Boom. Tick, boom. Okay, so make sure you have that in your ear and turn on the metronome. Now, to start recording, you're going to want to click this record button. It's called Session Arm Record. Oh, and I forgot to mention, make sure record arm is on the individual track. That's this red button, Arm Record. That gets it ready to record. And again, we clicked twice in this first clip to get our one measure of MIDI sequencing. And we're going to hit the Session Record button here. Here's our 1 bar count in. Now you'll see it's recording. You see the line at the bottom of the screen. So anything I touch on my keyboard right now will be recorded. Whoops, whoops, whoops. No big deal. Command Z, and you're back to home base here. So here we go. I'm going to do the bass drum. Okay, so that's almost right. If we zoom in on this, you put the magnifying glass on this ruler here and drag down and over. You can see this first bass drum, I played it a little bit late. So there's a way to avoid that. So I'm going to do Command Z. Let's zoom back out here. And I'm going to go to the Edit drop-down menu at the top left of my screen. And I'm going to go to Quantize Settings. And make sure it's on 16th notes, which it is. And I'm going to turn on Record Quantize. So Record Quantize is currently set to no quantization. You want to set it to 16th note quantization. Now mine is on. Now when I play this, even if I play it a little bit incorrectly, it will snap to the nearest part of our step sequence. So here we go, watch. Now they're right on the line. Okay, so now we're going to hit the stop button up here. We're going to slowly build this rhythm. Now we're going to listen to our track again, because what we're trying to do here, let me clean up my screens if it lets me. What we're trying to do here is learn the drum beat. So okay, so the next thing I'm listening is for the hi-hat. That's a high-pitched sound. Tick, 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 okay, so let's just put in a basic hi-hat for now. That's the T key. That's tick, 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 tick. So again, Record Quantize is on. So if I push these a little bit unevenly, it will snap it evenly. Let me just do one of these without Record Quantize on. I'm going back to my edit menu, top left. You won't see that right now because it's not part of my screen capture. I'm going to say no quantization. Okay, I'm going to do this without that. Again, I'm going to hit the Session Record button, get a 1 bar count in. I got my finger above T, and here we go. So now it's playing back. You can hear it's not even, because I'm a little off, right? So I'm going to Command Z. I'm going to go back to my edit menu, top left of the screen. And I'm going to turn on 16th note quantization. Okay, now that is on. Now I'm going to try again. And you'll see it snaps everything exactly right. Here I go. Perfectly spaced. Even if I played it a little off, it's like a magnet. They snap to their spot. It's called record quantization to the nearest 16th note. Okay, now let's add the snare, or actually the clap sound. So let's pause this. Let's go back and listen to our track.
Don't worry, baby, I keep me some fire.
So we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So you'll notice there's a clap on 2 and 4. I'm going to play along with the E key. I'll add some extra claps so you can hear them. E, 3, E. Okay, there's our clap. All right, now I'm going to start my session record button again. 1 bar count off again. We're going to record on top of what we already had. We're adding to it. And it's still snapping to the grid because record quantize remains on. Okay, we're getting closer. Now, if you listen closely to the song, there's a little snare drum sound that comes just before the clap. So let's listen for that. Here we go.
Turn to the city, everything litty, I love when it's hot. Turn to the city, I broke out the nut. Got some more millies,
snare clap.
I created history,
Snare clap.
He tried to diss me and he don't false. We call him Chaucer,
Snare
they
clap.
gonna chop. Took on how to follow,
Snare clap.
I run it like.
All right, now let's go back here. I'm going to find my clap. Or sorry, snare. It's S for snare. That's easy to remember. Now I'm going to turn on my session record button again. And I'm going to record this in. Now, let's say you make a mistake. Whoops. Oh, I made a mistake. Just Command Z. No big deal. Okay, now we're going to come back later and fix that snare. It's a little bit too low in pitch. We're going to raise the pitch later. But for now, let's get the rest of the hi-hat part happening. So if you listen, the hi-hat has what some would refer to as rolls, which are just faster grids of the rhythm. So let's listen again for this hi-hat. So let's count to 4 so we know where it's at. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first roll starts on 2. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. It's really fast, right? And then the next one comes on the second half of 4, like this. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. So this is a little harder to figure out. But now we're actually going to use a new tool. We're not going to play that in because that's too fast to humanly play with your fingers, especially on a computer keyboard. If you had a control surface for finger drums, like little drum pads, you could maybe do it with 2 hands. So I am going to go to the bottom right of this screen here. It says 1/16. And I'm going to control click on this. Control clicking on this, okay? Some of it's actually getting cut out of screen here. Let me see if I can reorganize, make some more room here. Give me a moment to adjust some things. Let's see what this does. Okay, let me just slide this window over so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to control click on the 1/16, and I'm going to turn on 30-second notes. Boom. Now it says 1/32. Now look, we have way more vertical lines here on our step sequencer. And I'm going to turn on triplet grid, which, by the way, that is Command 3 for triplet. Now we have even more lines. So these are 30-second note triplets. Now, before I draw these in with the pencil tool, I want you to understand what this ruler means. So right here, the 1 means measure 1. Okay. measure 1, beat 1. Now we have 1.2. That's measure 1, beat 2. And then we have 1.3 way over here. That's measure 1, beat 3. And 1.4, measure 1, beat 4. So our hi-hat starts on measure 1, beat 2. And I'm going up to the top right. I'm turning on my pencil tool. Now watch. I'm just going to draw in 2 triplets here. Cool? And let's hear what that sounds like. I'm going to actually push play on my clip now, since we're not recording, but we just want to hear it back. Now the second hi-hat roll is a little trickier. It starts on the second half of beat 4. So 1.4 is the first fourth of beat 4. 1.42 is the second fourth of beat 4. 1.43 is the third fourth of beat 4. And 1.44 is the fourth fourth of beat 4. So everything is in fractions within fractions within fractions. So here is the second half of beat 4. It starts at 1.43. I'm just going to fill in all of these and listen to it. And I'm going to hit play. And that's exactly what's in the song. Let's listen to the song and see if I got it right. Here we go.
We call them chopsticks cause they gonna chop. Took
1,
out of filers cause
2, 3, 4. I'm going to try to push play on Ableton at the same time of the song and see if they line up. Let's see if it happens. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the timing isn't exactly lined up here. It's hard to get them to start at the same time. You can hear they kind of line up. Okay, so now, remember the snare drum? Let's listen to that snare. It's a really high pitch. The snare's actually higher in pitch than the clap. You could kind of memorize that pitch like a singer. It's really high, right? So let me show you how to change the pitch on a sound. I'm going to go up here where it says 808 Core Kit. I'm going to click twice on that. Click, click. Now I can see my instrument again, not the programming of the clip. If you want to see the programming of the beat, you click on the clip itself right here. That's always 2 clicks. If you want to see the instrument we're using, which happens to be 808 Core Kit, you click on that twice. Okay, so here is our snare sound. That's actually called a snare sample, which means they recorded a snare drum, the sound wave of a snare drum, and put it inside this little box. So whenever you want to hear that sound wave, you can. Okay, so look, if you go to this tab called Controls, see these 2, Sample and then Controls, and you want to activate the pitch parameter in here. Okay, so that is going to be right here. It's really small, this little teeny blue square called pitch. I'm going to click that on. Now it's on. Cool. Now what I can do is raise the tuning of this. See here it says transpose 0 steps. Okay. Now look, if I push up arrow, I can raise this, or I can click in this box, I think, and I can type. So I just typed a 6. That means 6 half steps. So that's like going from one key to the very next on the piano, like white key, black key, white key, black key. So I'm going to do this by ear for now. While it's playing, I'm going to pitch up my snare. But let's put it back to 0 where it was so you can hear it change. I'm just going to use the up arrow. Here we go. So again, I selected the snare sample. I went to Controls tab. I activated pitch. And I'm going to go to the transpose right here and up arrow. Now it's sounding closer. That's up 4 half steps. Let me do 5. Let's try 6. Sometimes I like to make something a little too much so you know what that sounds like. so you know how far is too far. Let me go way high. Okay, that's 16 half steps up. It's way too high, right? I'm gonna leave it at 10 half steps. You don't have to do that, but that's where I think it sounds good. Okay, so now also, once you get your beat going, you can turn off your metronome. You don't need it anymore. These are these two dots at the top left. The metronome gets kind of annoying after a while, but you do need it at first so you have a reference. So here's the beat. This is part 1 to making a cover, an Ableton cover of Hot, the clean version. And we can do some other stuff to these sounds. Like maybe we want to change the pitch of the hi-hat. So we're just going to select hi-hat, hi-hat closed. Let's see where that is. Looking for it. Oh, there it is. And again, I'm going to go to the controls, turn on pitch. And let's just pitch that up maybe 1 or 2. Let's hear. Just 1 half step made the hi-hat a little more electronic sounding. Maybe you don't want that, maybe you do. Okay. Oh, and actually I forgot, we can also mix this a little bit. So mixing is when you adjust the relationship of each sound to the other sounds. So let's reference this again. You can see there's a lot of going back and forth between the track you're making and the track you're trying to replicate. Here we go. Let me rewind.
Everything litty, I love when it's hot. Turn to the city, I broke out the notch.
Actually, I think that my clap could be louder. I'm gonna put the hi-hat back to where it was. Okay, so actually what I'm gonna do is put the hi-hat back to 0. And we're just gonna turn up the hi-hat. But before we do that, let's pitch up our clap. Here's the 808 clap. Make sure pitch is on. We're gonna do it by ear while it's playing. I thought we were wrapping it up, but we're not, because I came up with other ideas. This is up 2 half steps. 3 half steps or 2. I think 3 sounds better. And I think that this clap rings a little too long. So we're going to go over here back to the sample tab, and I'm just going to shorten the ending of this sample. Watch how I'll do it too far. That's too much, right? That's too much. So maybe about this short, and we'll add a little fade to this maybe by going to the fade here. Sometimes it lets you fade them, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so I just shortened the tail of that a little, so it's a little more punchy. You can hear it kind of ends abruptly. It's like, and we're gonna, let's turn down the hi-hat. So look, I am expanding. This is called the chain mixer fold button. So if you ever want to know what a button's called, you just hover over it and look in the bottom left of the screen. I'm gonna unfold this. Now look, I can see volume controls for every single sound. So I'm gonna make the hi-hat louder. There we go. Because in this style of music, the hi-hat, or what they call the hats, need to be louder or on top of the mix. And I'm just going to turn my clap down a little bit. Not too much. Sometimes the smallest change makes a huge difference. And maybe turn up the snare just a little bit. Maybe we could put some volume on the kick, just a tinge. And there you have it. Now I'm gonna fold this back in. Oh, and by the way, before we conclude, let's keep things labeled and organized. I'm gonna go to the top of this track, Command R, and I'm gonna name it drums. And look, there's other versions of the beat in this song, so we're gonna label this clip. Click on the clip, Command R for rename, D1 for drums 1. Later on, we'll have some different versions of this. Like maybe we'll copy this down and make some other versions that I'll show you how to do later. Okay, and oh, you want to obviously save your session. We should have done this earlier. So I'm going to go to my File menu on the top left, and I'm going to do Save Live Set As. Okay, and we're just going to call this Hot Cover dash your last name. So I'm putting Bruns. Whoops, Brub. Bruns. And maybe create a special folder somewhere. So I already have one made here. Rap 1 Semester 1. Cool. There's the WAP beat that we're no longer going to do. I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to save this in here. And then you have it. Cool. Actually, I would like you to save this a little differently so we have incremental versions of this. So actually, let's do Save Live Set As. Hot Cover, your last name. And then at the end, we're going to add what phase of the production this is. So this is the drums. So later on, you'll have a version that says hot cover dash last name, parentheses, flute. Because there's a flute part, right? There's a low bass sound. There's some other instruments happening. So then you can have incremental versions of this. Cool. So this is the drums edition, if you will. All right, and then to turn this in, what I want you to do is make sure this view is visible, that I can clearly see your name at the top of the screen, and you're going to do a screenshot, and you're going to save it as hot cover dash your last name, parentheses, drums, and put that in Google Classroom. Cool? All right. Please get all of this done before next class so we can move along. Hope that helps everyone. And goodbye.